All right, we are going to keep discussing this incident with former Wisconsin Governor and president of the Young Americans Foundation, Scott Walker. Scott, great to have you with us here. What do you make of President Biden going to Europe instead of going to Ohio? And also then do a little bit more of a focused take on what you think is happening in Ohio right now.
Well, it's outrageous. He knew full well what was going on, and yet he chose to go halfway around the world from where East Palestine is at, which, by the way, if he's wondering, it's about halfway between Cleveland and Pittsburgh, just east of Dayton. You saw that last report showed the governors of Ohio and the governor of Pennsylvania, one a Republican, one a Democrat, both being there. I learned a long time ago, long before I was governor of the great state of Wisconsin, that when there's a disaster, there's nothing more important than being there. Not just to visibly show your support for, in this case, the citizens of that community who obviously are shell-shocked by what happened and the aftermath, but also because there's no better way to get a handle of what more needs to be done than being there in person. The fact that Joe Biden chose to go to Ukraine and Poland at a time when the people in that part of the world, particularly in the upper Midwest, needed the attention of this administration just shows how out of touch this president is.
Yeah, and former President Trump is going there tomorrow. Aaron Brockovich also going there. How do you read that? How important is it? And what do you hope comes out of that?
Well, it's a strong signal. Again, I think that aligns well with both the governors, the other local officials, others from both, not only from the state of Ohio, but again, you're just miles away from Pennsylvania. It has an impact on that entire region. And it is just such a shock. By the way, I think part of the reason why they're not there is because their administration, particularly Pete Buttigieg, totally screwed this up. And to me, it's an example of failing up. It's hard to believe it's possible, but he might be the one person less competent in the federal government than even Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And they want to stay as far away from that. But this is not about politics. When there's a disaster, you have to set politics aside and step up and take command and take charge. And the failure of the president and his team to be there is a sign about what he thinks about people in Ohio and Pennsylvania and elsewhere.
Scott, I want to turn to this. About 14 years ago, you faced one of the very first battles against cancel culture when you were governor after trying to repair the state's budget. Cancel culture, of course, has become a huge thing in our society now. Even here at Newsmax, we're experiencing it amidst our large battle after being canceled by DirecTV. Speak a bit to what it is like being canceled, and what do you think is the best way to fight cancel culture? It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon.
It isn't. We got to take it head on. They tried to take us out first through intimidation and then through a recall. We ultimately won that recall with more votes and a larger percentage of the vote. We see it the work I do now at Young America's Foundation with young people on campuses all across the country, including one I'm going to just in a few days at the College of Lake County in northern Illinois. And for sure, you've seen it with Newsmax. And in fact, in particular, we've seen it not only with Newsmax, but in the last year or so, we've seen it with big tech knocking off of Twitter, the president of the United States, while still letting the spokesman for the Taliban being on. This is part of concerted effort, whether it's with Newsmax, the people like myself and others you have on, of trying to keep our voices from being heard by the big corporate elites in the media and big tech and elsewhere. We need to fight back. Maybe part of it is we need to attract someone like Elon Musk to do what he did at Twitter, and maybe do some of the same with these other media outlets. But if people are watching right now, your voices need to be heard in Congress and in states all across America and say, this is not fair, it's not right. We need to have these voices.
Former Governor Scott Walker, thank you so much for your insight and for joining us today, sir.
My pleasure. Have a great one.